Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Seattle Tonight. My name is Matthew, and as always, thanks for listening. The theme of this episode is Blessing in Disguise, and the storyteller is Tomy. He's the owner of Nerd Towing in the greater Tacoma, Washington area. I spent some time in Tacoma, and driving around, I would always see these tow trucks with Nerd painted on the side of them. It was unique, it caught my eye, and I'm always looking for a story, so I reached out to the owner and asked if he would tell me about how he started the business. And that's how I met Tomy. He's a really inspirational guy. One of those people who knew from the start that the traditional 9-to-5 was not for them. He knew who he was, what he wanted, he stuck to his guns, and now he's a very successful business owner. And he only answers to himself. He escaped that 9-to-5. Here's what I really appreciate about this story. There was a moment when things got really tough, and Tomy almost gave up his dream of owning his own towing business to become a tow truck driver for somebody else. But the universe stepped in and helped him out. One of those cosmic collision, divine intervention moments. But I won't spoil it. This is the story of how Tomy started Nerd Towing. So Tomy, the reason I reached out is because I see your tow trucks all over the place. You've got a really interesting, unique brand, and I'd love to know, how did you start Nerd Towing and build it into the successful business that you've got today?
Well, very slow, and it was very painful over time because there was many times where I just wanted to quit. Originally, I wanted to be a shop, that worked on cars because I was into the little tuner cars, like a lot of Hondas and Nissans, a bunch of stuff that you see buzzing around, making all kinds of noise down the street. I always told myself when I was younger, I was like, man, I want to own a shop that we build race cars, street race cars. A little bit of time went by and I started thinking, like, what could I make of a name to make it stand out? And how could I leave a taste in people's mouth just by the name? And slowly I started trying to figure out the name, and I came up with Nerd, which originally was going to be for New Era Racing Development. And when I finally decided that I wanted to, become a legitimate business, several years later, which that was about 7 years ago now, the state had came along and told me, hey, or it was really the city. They're like, what is all these cars at your house? And I was like, well, I kind of just made up a story. I was like, I'm working on them for friends, and they belong to this person and that person. Really, they were all mine. And they said, well, do you have a business license? And I'm in the city of Tacoma at that point, and I says, no, I don't. I was like, well, yeah, if you're going to run a business here, which this is business-like, activity, you need to have a business license. So I was like, okay, well, what the hell am I going to make the name? So I was like, ooh, Nerd, but motorsports. I was like, we'll just might as well put that in there. And it was went down to the county, got the business license, put it on the wall, came back, and was working on cars for a while. The police came back. The city code enforcement came back and said, hey, you have a business license now. I says, yes. Yes, I do. It's right here. They says, okay, well, guess what? This is not zoned to be a business. This is zoned for residential. So you cannot run this business here. And so then I was like, okay, let me figure this out. So I started looking, and I came up with, I'm going to get a trailer. I wound up buying a trailer, a homemade trailer. It was just a little flatbed. I could put a car on it, and I was pulling it with my van. I had a cargo van. I think I bought that cargo van for probably $400, $500. And it had a hitch, and it looked like it could tow something. So I was towing my own cars with it. City's still telling me, hey, you can't do this here. And I told them, well, this is where I live, so I'm going to just have to figure this out. So at this point, I was just moving stuff any way that I could. I started slowing down on working on cars. I started moving people's houses if that's what they needed. I built walls for the trailer and offered a moving service. I was just like, man, how can I just find ways to make money doing my own thing? I don't want to have a job. I had never really had a job except for about once in 2005. And so I didn't want to have a job. Eventually, I was like, well, what if I had a tow truck? And then I could just tow cars in and out, and they don't know what I'm doing with them. I don't necessarily have to have them here that long. So I sold my van and sold my trailer a couple of my cars, and I saved up a little bit more money, and I bought a cheap truck. It was really ran down, and I didn't even have a driver's license.
What?
I didn't even have a driver's license. I literally didn't. I didn't have a license for so long. It was just I guess a menace. And so I drove that thing with no driver's license, and at the time I had no insurance. So I started doing these in-town $50 tows, and people started finding out, hey, Tommy's got a tow truck.
Yeah, so wait, how are you spreading the word?
Facebook, Facebook. But that was where it all started, was Facebook right then and there. And it was like it got bigger and bigger. Plus, I had been in the car world for a long time, pretty much my whole life right here. And so a lot of people already had known me. And then once they found out that I had a tow truck and I was willing to do towing, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just was using it. I mean, my first car, it fell off. I was towing it from Auburn to Tacoma, and it fell off. And when I got to where I was going, I realized that for however long, I had been dragging it by chains that were connected. Luckily, it was already a car that had been wrecked, so there wasn't any like a big deal, and the customer didn't have no idea what he was looking at. It kind of played in my favor. But after that, I started learning a lot of stuff, and I got my license, and the little truck was, I could only haul one car at a time, and I couldn't do all-wheel drives. I really had to learn, for the most part, by myself. I surrounded myself shortly after that truck, though, with people that were in the towing industry that were small business owners as well. I didn't want to be around people that just didn't have tow trucks because they weren't really going to be able to help me learn. And the only time I wanted to really go around them was when I needed to do towing. So for a while, I was just like, hey, do you got any work? Or can I just come over there and just, hang out with you? I don't need no money. I'll do some towing for you. Just give me a little bit of fuel. And then slowly I drove my first flatbed because I was just driving it for somebody else. He taught me a few things. And he was like, hey, you should bring your little truck and come move some cars for me. I'll give you $50 a car. He was like, but I got like 40 cars. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then something happened to the truck, and my truck broke down. Well, it pushed me to need to have a bigger truck because I was like, well, I got to have something. And I landed myself a contract with another company. And that contract, it didn't pay a whole lot, but it definitely gave me volume, and it kept me busy for a long time. And now I had a flatbed. So now I got all two cars at once. And a lot of these cars were just going to the wrecking yard. And so then I started learning and practicing and playing with boards and, long 2x4s and stuff, trying to learn how to put a lowered car on a truck. Because I mean, I had always drove lowered cars. So I wanted to know, how can I get this car on this truck without damaging it? I know what not to do with the car. I just got to figure out what to do to get it on here. And so since I had plenty of lowered cars, I had lots of practice. And once I got that down, the word spread like wildfire. Tommy can tow your lowered car. It doesn't matter if it's pushing pebbles or not. Like, he can tow it and it won't get messed up. Then after that, it was just all uphill, but I would always run into problems with my trucks. Like I'd run into, financial problems like everybody does. And there would be many times where I would just be like, man, I just can't do this. I feel like I'm running in circles. I need to quit. I'm going to quit. I'm going to go get a job. And then I answered myself one day when I was like, what does it even look like? What does quitting look like? Like, how do you actually quit? If you can try and answer that, there really isn't an answer. You know what I mean? It's like, if I asked you, how do you quit doing what you're doing? Or how do you quit trying? It's just sit there. And it's like, you can't pay your bills if you just sit there.
Well, I'll tell you, it takes a certain type of person to not be able to have an answer to what would your reason for quitting be. That's a certain type of character trait. It's a real strong character trait. And it's that same character trait that makes you go, fuck, man, I want to be in control of my own destiny. I don't want to work for the man.
And that was exactly what I struggled with every time. I even tried to go get a job. I literally applied at another tow company, and they said, oh, you have a speeding ticket that is like 4 years old. So if you wait a little bit longer, it'll go away and we can hire you. You'll never believe it, but I left from there and I got a speeding ticket for going 7 miles an hour over when I left from that interview. And that was one of the times where I was trying to quit. I was trying to throw in the towel. I didn't want to continue to go. And I got the stupid ticket and it just pissed me off. And I was like, I swear this is not meant to be. This is not meant to be that I work for somebody else. I want to work for somebody else only because I don't want to continue to go do what's hard. And then at that point, I was just like, you know what? I guess I got to keep doing this because this is what I know how to do. So I got a second truck after saving a little bit of money. And I hired a friend. I was like, hey, you're not doing anything. What do you think about driving a big ass tow truck? I was like, you can drive this F650. It's extended cab. It's got a sound system in it. You could drive this. He was like, oh, yeah, let's check it out. I ain't doing nothing else. That would be awesome. I mean, you get to go places, see all kinds of things, meet all kinds of people, travel the state and get paid for it. It's like, it can't get much better than that.
It sounds free.
Yeah, it really is. Because, I mean, man, I don't know how long you live here in Washington, but there sure is a lot of stuff to see.
Yeah, man.
It never ends. Like every sunny day, even rainy days, there's always something to see. And, I slowly, when I say slowly, I mean, I guess it would be faster than a lot of people's pace. But to me, it was kind of slow. At this point, by the time I got a second truck, I think it was 3 years in. I got the second truck and, I thought I was going to work it out. Didn't work very well. So I put a little bit more money into it and I sold it, but I sold it for a profit. And I was like, well, why didn't I just do this from the beginning? Because I used to buy, sell, trade cars. Why didn't I just sell a couple tow trucks anyway? So I found a couple of deals on some trucks and sometimes I'd even fly out of state to get them, get the deal, go bring it back home. The thing is though, a lot of people like to go to the casino and they gamble. I don't gamble like that. I gamble with buying and selling and trading. It's like, you never know if you're going to get a lemon or if you're going to get a winner. I was buying trucks that other companies were selling off because they're buying new trucks. And a lot of the time, those are usually trucks that they're like, hey, we're tired of dealing with these issues and somebody else can deal with it. It's pretty common to have 500,000 miles. So I get it for what I feel like was a good deal. And I get it to an area where somebody else could feel like it was a good deal at a higher price and do nothing to it. And so that was literally the only way that I could make enough money to get multiple trucks that I could keep. And all at the same time, I was just working this contract. I mean, I had this contract for another company for several years. I think it was almost 6.5 years or 6 years in total. It didn't necessarily pay good, but it paid consistent. And that meant more than anything. It paid consistent every week for years on end. And at the same time, I'm not just doing work there. I'm doing those private tows, those lowered cars. I'm doing, I wasn't doing AAA yet. I wasn't hooked in with any insurance companies or anything like that. I did not have my own yard. I didn't have a shop anymore at that point. I was just doing what I could do to, to keep the wheels rolling, keep the dollars moving. And so I then wound up getting to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to be contracted with this business anymore. And not because I didn't like it, but because I feel like it was my turn to do what others have been doing, which is contracting out. So I feel like I want to grow to a much bigger size. And so I kind of just kept buying more trucks and putting more people in them. And then my fiance, she decided that she wanted to step away from her day job and become the business admin and, like my accountant, bookkeeper, everything that's not in the tow truck that I had been trying to figure out how to do that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I mean, I don't have much schooling. I don't have, the best vocabulary. I don't have the greatest, math skills, stuff like that, where she does. And so that was what made a lot of stuff just go so much faster. And literally in 1 year of her and I, we went from 3 trucks to 8 trucks and and making, I mean, man, we literally, my first year of business, I made that in a week of of this last year. Like, so the money that I made in my first year, in my entire year, I made it in a week of the work that we did last 2020.
What are the chances that you got a ticket right at the point where you were about to give up on creating Nerd Towing? And that ticket made it so that you can't get another towing job unless you're working for yourself. I mean, that police officer happened to be in that exact spot at the exact right time. He could have had to use the bathroom. There's a lot of crime in Tacoma. He could have gotten a call that took him somewhere else. It's incredible, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. I mean, I definitely feel like everything happens for a reason. And that cop pulling me over kept me away from having a job that I thought I wanted. And I didn't need that job. I just needed a kick in the ass, And when I was a kid, I grew up with my grandpa. And I mean, my mom raised me, but my grandpa was always around and I was always with him, spending a lot of time with him. And he owned a business. He was in construction. And he always told me, he was like, look, there's only so many things that you can do in life that are going to actually matter. And there's only one thing that you can do for yourself that you can take with you everywhere. And that is literally your reputation. He was like, if you don't have a good reputation, then that means your word ain't no good. Everybody always says that your word is everything. Well, your reputation means more than just your word. So if you want to have something for yourself, just earn a good reputation. Do do what's fun. Do what you like, and it'll just, man, I don't know, I get kind of tied up over it with my words, but I definitely feel like if you want something, you just do the right thing and stay focused on it and make sure you go step by step, and it'll all fall into place.
If you're in the Tacoma area and need a tow, reach out to Nerd Towing by visiting nerdtowing.com. Nerd. And that's it for this episode of Seattle Tonight. My name is Matthew. Thanks for listening.